Hello everyone, welcome to Screenwalks. I'm Marco De Mutis, Digital Curator at Photomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland, and together with John Uriarte at the Photographers Gallery in London, we have created this collaborative program of fortnightly live-streamed events. Through Screenwalks, we are interested in investigating the changing role of the photographic image in its networked and digital forms. Each event is led by an artist, a researcher, or a curator who accompanies the audience to the spaces where the core practice takes place. Screenwalks can be a live performance, a peek behind the scenes of an artwork, or a guided online tour, among many other possible formats. We have hosted more than 80 Screenwalk events so far, and you can find video recordings of each one of them on our website and on our YouTube channel. All publicly accessible for free. You can browse through this archive through tags on screenwalks.com or through curated playlists on YouTube. Please remember that if you have found Screenwalks useful for your professional or personal interests, you can subscribe to folders. For €7, you'll support the program and its artists, and also get your personalized folder on folders.screenwalks.com. There, you will receive files and extra content from the artists and researchers of Screenwalks. Finally, some housekeeping information. Your microphone should be muted to avoid noise disturbances. If it's still on, please mute it now. We are recording and we will be archiving this event. Please use the public chat to ask questions, or feel free to send a private message to John or to me, and we will bring them all to a discussion with today's artist at the end of the event.
And hello and welcome from my side too. I'm John Uriarte, curator of Screenworks with the Photographers Gallery. Let me start this introduction with a question. Do you remember the first online space that was socially meaningful to you? Was it a chat room, an internet forum? Maybe it was a video game you played with your friends, or with a group of strangers that ended up becoming your friends? Maybe it was a social media platform which you abandoned because it became shittified. Or maybe you don't even have any meaningful memory from an online space, but you would like to hear from the ones who have them. Today, we are going to be looking at the ruins of online spaces. Although all attention and expectations are currently on AI, if we make the effort to remember what was going on during the pandemic and the early post-pandemic times, we might remember that the metaverse was the only thing that mattered. Too much money was invested on developing online spaces, promising that it was the future. Facebook shamelessly changed its name to Meta, and respected architects like Zaha Hadid pledged to create virtual homes, offices, and other habitable spaces, usually marketed around the crypto world and the NFT market. However, the digitalization of social relationships and the hybridization of everyday life had already started before all that hype, and keeps on existing once the wave has dissipated. People keep on creating, populating, and abandoning virtual spaces, acknowledging that the lifespan of online worlds is different from the physical one, understanding that they will probably end and that it might be okay. But we can also wonder, what can we learn from them if we let them disappear? How will people in the future know about our everyday life without access to those spaces and to what happened within them? Today, we will dive into these questions with researcher Hortense Boulais-Ifrène, I'm sorry for my French, who will introduce her practice-based research on the ruins of virtual worlds. Hortense is a PhD candidate at Paris 8 University, conducting research with the artist image et art contemporain and transfers critiques anglophones laboratories. Her practice-based thesis, Virtual Worlds in Ruins, an interdisciplinary approach to video archaeology, explores the remnants of past paradigms of persistent online worlds at the intersection of various artistic and theoretical approaches, including exhibition curating, performed lecture, virtual photography, or video. In 2023, she curated the loopback theory of fiction for the Ars Electronica Festival campus in Austria, and in 2024, she organized the Rencontre d'Esta Symposium at the National Institute for Art History in Paris. Hortense. We are very happy and excited to have you with us today. The screen is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction. So I'm just going to say hi with my face on, but I really want to tilt my camera so you can see my desk. I will show you some books, some text, for example, and I will also share my screen at the same time. So I'm very excited for you all to be here, and thank you very much. And I think I will have to just change the parameters of the video. Oh, it's very blurry. Yeah, I just have to remove that and change the parameters of the video, so it's just okay. Now you have a great view. I hope you can all hear me well. And I will share my screen with you all. Wait. Yeah. Is it okay? You can see my screen? Okay, cool. Perfect. So the reason why I just tilt my camera on my desk, and what I wondered what could be the starting point of this proposal, and how I could engage with the screenbook format in resonance with my doctoral research. I realized that since its core focus is to discuss the agency of the metaphor of virtual ruins in describing the state of persistent online worlds, as an artist and researcher, it might be maybe fitting to begin with one of the constructivist apparatus of our daily online lives, which is the desktop. And it may be mundane to navigate from folders to files, from applications to software, but to understand the importance of that metaphor for a phenomenological approach, I would say, let's make a detour in the offices of Alan Kay and his team at the Palo Alto Research Center in the 1970s, where he introduced the desktop metaphor, materialized with the Xerox Alto, which is a combination of small computer, network connection, bitmap display, and mouse, as Doc brought to put it in a presentation for the Computer History Museum. So I would just want to show you the official commercial. Let me know if it's you can hear it.
Good morning.
Can you hear?
Good morning.
You come into your office, grab a cup of coffee,
Morning, Fred.
and a Xerox machine presents your morning mail on a screen.
What's the mail this morning? This one looks interesting. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to need a couple of copies of this.
Push a button, and the words and images you see on the screen appear on paper.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Fred. You know, Fred, I think everybody on the routing list should see this.
Push another button, and the information is sent electronically to similar units around the corner or around the world. This is an experimental office system. It's in use now at the Xerox Research Center in Palo Alto, California. Soon, Xerox systems like this will help you manage your most precious resource, information.
Anything else? Flowers. Well, what flowers? My anniversary. I forgot.
Oh, of course. So this metaphor of the work environment symbolizes computing becoming accessible and graphical, and is so powerful that it remains favored even today, despite relocation, updates, and the passage of time, obsolescence that accompanies our daily lives. And it also reveals our personal agencies between intimacy and work, stemming from the order, archive, or control, some desks being messier than others. Also, with other metaphor that emerged specifically when it became necessary to give the internet, to provide the internet arrival, with a technical vocabulary. So the researcher in linguistics, Denis Jamais-Coupé, observes that offices metaphor are anchored in stasis and storage, borrowing from the vocabulary of home and organization, trash bin, desktop, disk cleanup, and in contrast, those of the internet suggest movement and exploration, associating online navigation with a journey or traversal, surfing the internet, browsing, foraging, or hunting. So these metaphors make sure that what happens on screen is more readable and comprehensible through imagery, ensuring a coherent experience and engaging with the space that must feel familiar. So this logic is the logic of transparency. If I'm showing you a book by Boulter and Grossin, I will maybe stop sharing the screen and reshare it again. Here you go. So Boulter and Grossin, indeed, they pointed out that virtual reality, three-dimensional graphics, and graphical interface design are seeking to make digital technology transparent. And in this sense, transparency of the interface would be one that erases itself, so that the user is no longer aware of confronting a medium, but instead stands in an immediate relationship to the content of that medium. So it's also what as a philosopher, Marcello Vitali Rosati pinpoints in his research. And so I forgot my texts. It's still here somewhere and it has recharged. So I need to find where I am. Sorry. Yeah. So the researcher Vitali Rosati argues that virtual reality is not inherently fictitious, but is distinguished by its machinic origin and management by computational systems. So while all human interaction with the world involve mediation, the specificity of virtual reality lies in its tendency to make the mediation transparent, making technology both omnipresent and invisible. So the medium fades into the background in favor of the content. But for an image to appear on the screen, the underlying technical infrastructure must function. So it reinforces the false distinction between software and hardware and distance us from the actual functioning of the machine. So I will just put the book of Friedrich Kittler that everyone should read actually on that subject. I will share my screen again. Yeah, there you go. So this is why Alexander Galloway invented the portmanteau. Funnily enough, it's a French word, the portmanteau algorithm. An algorithm is a cross-functional role to describe the phenomenological relationship of the individual to the screen with what makes sense on the surface and the layers of programming and hardware. So it's made of allegory and algorithm. In the 80s, 90s, at the crossroads of connected and appropriable computing device, we witnessed the birth of what we call cyberculture, around which dystopian narratives, often fueled by science fiction, utopia, and heterotopia crystallizes. The first virtual communities are particularly in the hair of the American counterculture, Some of you may be familiar with the history of virtual communities. This history is centered around the figure of Stuart Brand, author of the counterculture manual, The Holder's Catalog, that you might maybe know. And later he partners with Larry Brilliant in 1985 to extend the principle of the whole earth with the well, which I have a picture somewhere here. The well is the whole earth electronic link. And Howard Reingold documented this community of interest, which was really one of the first online forum of shared interest. Wait a second. There you go. So cyber utopia intertwines with the Californian ideology. The Californian ideology is a fusion of libertarian individualism, techno-utopianism, and free market capitalism that emerged in Silicon Valley, blending the 1960s counterculture's emphasis on personal freedom with the neoliberal economics of the 1980s. It promotes the belief that technology is inherently liberating. Markets should remain unregulated and meritocratic, such as favoring decentralization over traditional institutions. However, critics argue that this ideology, of course, masks structural inequalities, reinforcing monopolistic power and ignoring the broader social consequence of unregulated technological development. So, for the Californian ideology, technology is an emancipatory force that was perceived as the new frontier, which advanced alongside the technological breakthrough, continuously renewed projects and other abandoned, neglected, or displaced by new territories. This perpetual economic movements echoes Schumpeter's concept of creative destruction, where older media are rendered obsolete in favor of the newer, more advanced ones. So in 1979, Yves Tourdet published Les Ruines du Futur, The Ruins of the Future, a near-prophetic text in which he unveils a fragmented asyntaxic world that produces ruins where the power and cities are profoundly transformed by computing and simulation. In the introduction of the, I think, very first chapter, which is called, sorry, everything is French, it's in French, but I translated it. It's called Les Dents du Futur, so the teeth of the future. No, sorry. Les Dents du Terminal, so the teeth of the terminal. He writes, where we encounter on one side, miniaturization, the microprocessor and enzymatic manipulation. On the other, the space shuttle, the neutron bomb. Where we see that in the in-between, we move around gropingly while collective memories, banks and databases are being developed and interconnected networks are being established whose terminals, like so many greedy mouths, reconnect with the old model of voracity and appetites, where we can see everywhere groups that agglomerate, then reconnect with an unusual past, making their own transversal passions, fleeting specificities and stocks of orphan signs, where we understand that reproducing now means directly creating ruins, debris, fragments, and nuisance, where we then observe the mixing of temporalities, the instability of bodies, and where we begin to explore archaeology like a science fiction theme. So by projecting the imaginary of ruins into the future, he inverts the three partition of past, present, and future, shifting perspective as the traditional historical approach seeks trace of the past in the present. So my doctoral research explores how the terms ruin can be relevant in understanding the end of persistent online worlds as habitable environments. So it's within this ideological and historical context, which I admit I may have described in too much detail, that's the first 3D persistent world, online world emerged. So I usually use the word persistent worlds. It's a term that Anne Coquelin has described in her book, à l'angle des mondes possibles, so at the angle of possible worlds. So she says that it means that the game develops continuously with or without the player's presence. The entire game behaves like the world around us, this natural world that lives, grows, and dies without us. It's an open environment, not a stage setting confined to the prefabricated decor. So developers model these worlds on their own, miniaturized and synthesized, where avatars can act. And the term persistence suggests a deliberate imitation of the working of mid-space, the physical world, in brackets, as opposed to cyberspace, which is a distinction popularized by John Perry Barlow, the author of the Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace. I'm gonna share my screen again. It's okay. Yeah. So let's, as John said, maybe jump into the future and go to 2021 with our great friend Mark Zuckerberg. At the moment when he announced that Metaverse was rebranding to create the famous metaverse.
Back when I started Facebook, that mostly meant text that we typed on computers. Then we all got phones with cameras, and the internet became much more visual. And recently, as connections got faster, video has become the main way that we experience content. We've gone from desktop to web to phones, from text to photos to video, but this isn't the end of the line. The next platform and medium will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the metaverse. And you're gonna be able to do almost anything you can imagine. Get together with friends and family, work, learn, play, shop, create, as well as entirely new categories that don't really fit how we think about computers or phones today. Now, since we're doing this remotely today, I figured let's make this special. So we've put together something that I think is really going to give you a feeling for what this future could be like. We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present, like we're right there with people, no matter how far apart we actually are. We'll be able to express ourselves in new, joyful, completely immersive ways. And that's going to unlock a lot of amazing new experiences. When I send my parents a video of my kids, they're gonna feel like they're right in the moment with us, not peering through a little window. When you play a game with your friends, you'll feel like you're right there together in a different world, not just on your computer by yourself.
So I'm not going to put the 1 hour and 17 minutes of Mark Zuckerberg talking about the metaverse, but you have the main idea of what he meant when creating the metaverse. So following the same keynote, let's say keynote format popularized by Steve Jobs, he unveils his vision of the metaverse. And so with a wave of his hands and billions of dollars of investments, as John already said, he thought to sweep away 30 years of cyberculture and instigate a paradigm shift on all possible fronts, establishing new standards for an interoperable and decentralized metaverse. And here, a defining aspects of the ruin emerged, because Zuckerberg World is already dead before it has even a chance to exist. So in 2023, Microsoft announced the shutdown of Altspace VR for March 10th without any attempt to archive it, underscored the fragility of the so-called persistent world and challenged the utopian narrative of inhabiting the metaverse. While Microsoft justified its decision as a corporate restructuring move, layering off part of its virtual reality team and shifting focus to enterprise software, this event revealed deeper governance issues and precarious position of users in virtual space. So despite communities actively shaping this environment, they remain powerless against the unilateral decisions of corporations, as shown by the absence of any real possibility for protest or reversal. So the paradox of virtual ownership becomes clear. Users invest time and creativity in space deemed persistent, yet their existence is entirely contingent on profitability and corporate interest. And moreover, the disappearance of Altspace VR highlights a broader political and economic strategy where control over the program, source code, and infrastructure ensures a lack of transparency while reinforcing the marketability of a world no longer possible. And in response to this deliberate erasure, I created the project The Last Days of Altspace VR, Les Derniers Jours d'Altspace VR. That it was conceived in sort of a documentary machinima project, recording the surface of a vanishing space as an act of resistance against a missing archive. So by being immersed in a particular space-time, impending disconnection during the final months of Altspace VR, I decided then to put this documentation project constrained by a liminal and urgent time frame, unsurprisingly culminated in the total erasure of the persistent world. Yet the this experiment set within landscapes of near apocalyptic shutdown oscillates between imagination and technical reality. So several questions motivated the project, both regarding the event itself and the act of recording, like how do avatars communities experience these departures and how do they organize their migration? What impacts does it have on virtual landscapes? And can film as a sensitive recording offer a partial response to a missing archive? Working with limited means became for me a bit necessary. So rather than static locations, persistent worlds have experimental dimensions. So moreover, their legitimacy as sites of effects remains contested despite extensive literature on the subject. So since preserving file was not an option allowed by Microsoft, I choose instead to preserve traces of activity through secondary documentation. So I was very much inspired by the Preserving Virtual World project, which beyond seeking software and hardware solution for virtual world preservation, also emphasized secondary documentations by compiling extensive archives of photographic and video from virtual worlds and MMORPG in games. So first, for that project, I choose to buy a headset, a Meta headset that I have just right now with me. Yeah. So, as you can see on my camera, I'm trying to put it here just to put it on my desk. So I first decided to go to Altspace VR with my new headset. So I just started very easily to take some pictures of the place I was newly discovering, to be honest, because I didn't know about Altspace VR before, and I didn't. This was the first time for me using VR at home. I already used VR in other space, but it was it was for sure a big discovery for me. So I started so I started this project with taking pictures of what I just discovered, and as I ventured myself, I navigated in a labyrinth of disparate environments. So I first fell into that world. I think it was the first world I was at, and so I just discovered this simulation of someone writing for me. It was just someone writing behind a desk, and then I started reading what was on the wall, and then I quickly realized that it was part of the Bible. So I was very astonished by that. And then I discovered that the name of the person who made this world was Chet, and that Chet made other places as such. Like, for example, we have here the arch. How do you say in English? In French, it's Arche de Noé, Noah Ark. I think it's okay, Noah's Ark. So it was basically just very weird and eerie spaces dedicated to parts of the Bible. So I felt a profound sound of uncanniness, not just at that moment, but mostly when I was going through the landscapes of this new world I was discovering, that led me to. So first, I have to say that the interface of Outspace VR was a bit weird. It was a bit difficult to navigate from worlds to worlds. But then I just discovered one place called NFT Oasis, which was very weird, to be honest. I think NFT Oasis was made for communities, for community gathering, but their purpose was very weird to understand, to be honest. And from that moment, I was able to just jump from one teleporter to another. So this is how I managed to discover different worlds. So apparently this NFT Oasis have I tried to make a cartography of NFT Oasis, to be honest, but it was very difficult to understand where it ended. It was mostly where. So I started here at the NFT Oasis hub. Then from one teleporter to another, I tried to create this map to try to navigate into this this labyrinth from one place to the other, and there was a lot of different aesthetic. For example, I just went to this very uncanny place where there is a lot of NPCs. It looks like Los Angeles, for example, I think. But I don't know. Yeah, so the NPCs were moving at the same time as me and watching me in a very weird way. I took a lot of pictures. Maybe it's not. Yeah. So they have a very strange face. And so I was really discovering that, and I felt a bit alone in these weird spaces. And also I fell in the decor at some point. So I was really wondering how I couldn't go back to the floor space. I was just here completely stuck in a landscape that was a bit glitching and changing. So you see there's no coherence here, for example. Or I was also, let's see, finding other spaces that were made with photogrammetry, it's still NFT Oasis. And then it's a bit difficult, I think, to take some pictures of. I felt into this crack, which, as you can see here, it's very weird. And then the world changed and changed completely. So I was maybe not supposed to fall into the cracks, but this is how the photogrammetry looks like when you, I think, see it from behind, and it starts glitching like this. So it was basically the my very first encounter with ArtSpace VR. You see, I have a lot of pictures of that specific NFT Oasis place. And then I realized that the chat environments of the Bible were changing every day. So every day it was a different scenery of the Bible. So one day it was it was the Golgotha, and actually it was the very first time that I was encountering another avatar. And this avatar was this famous Chet, and Chet was watching me. So I got a bit afraid, and it was a very bizarre environment, I would say. I was able to take the cross and go up the Golgotha, and as he was watching me, I tried to talk to him, but he did not respond. So as he was watching me, I said, okay, maybe I'm going to do the experiments. So I took a cross, because you could take the cross on your shoulder and then go up the Golgotha with all of the parts of the Bible, and then you could go up here.
Hortense, just a very quick question from the chat, because chat was asking if those NPCs were not other people, or like maybe you can tell us a little bit how you could tell.
So the NPCs of the NFT Oasis, which was just up here, are not real people. It's just really bots. It's just 3D characters. It's not really NPC. You could not talk to them. It's just 3D characters that were moving. And there were a bit everywhere, that place, but other than that, it was completely empty. And as you can see, there was a sort of fake concert on the background with absolutely no music and fake avatars. Like, I think it was just to mimic people. That's it, to make as if it was crowded, but it was not at all. And to make it a bit more lively, but it was basically completely dead. But that person, the famous person, Chet, I just met him very randomly in one of his events, and so he is a real avatar. Actually, the avatars look like this. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah. So that's me with my cross on my back. I took a selfie with my avatar while I was trying to go up the Golgotha, while Chet was watching me. But unfortunately, I was not able to talk to him, because I would have liked to have an interview of that person. So after a certain time, I realized why I was seeing nobody, because I was not connected at the proper time. So AltSpace was a word mainly used by North Americans, so during the night in Europe. And I decided to shift from my headsets to meet the avatar and really record the dying landscapes with a new computer, because I think it's very difficult to record with a headset, and the files are very heavy. And actually, AltSpace VR is both available on headsets and on computers. So now I'm going to just switch quickly to, to the video and the core of the project, I would say. So just to say, there are two options for building the set. So either they're directly using AltSpace VR integrated building models, or importing models built using Unity 3D software. So since these are stored on each builder's computer, the second option facilitates the transfer of decor to other worlds. So in the first option, the sets, the sets are stored solely on Microsoft servers and cannot be downloaded or transferred to one owned machine. So, however, strategies are being developed to circumvent the platform. So the Free MRE Foundation provides avatars with two open source software programs. So the first one is the AltSpace World Preserver, allowing the aspiration of worlds, let's say aspiration, I don't have to, downloading worlds, let's say, created by avatars, so with files and scripts and so on, into a Unity scene. And the second one, user can preserve an interpretation of their avatar to which communities are really attached. So you can, so this is my avatar after it has been downloaded, let's say, and preserved by the MRE Foundation. So it's an independent people who created this program for the people of AltSpace VR to actually have their avatar, maybe in other platforms, such as VR chats, where it's possible to transfer any avatar. But the thing is, avatar, to create a sense of integration, let's say, they use eye tracking, voice eye tracking. So when you are immersed in the virtual world, the eyes are moving, so you have the feeling that people are watching you while you are talking. So I try to record the landscape through my avatar as a camera. These are just the rush of the project, which lasts approximately 70 hours. So I won't show 70 hours, of course. But the idea was really create a sort of collection of memories and landscapes generated by the users. So I decided to also records the everyday life of the persons whom I met, because I met a lot of communities. For example, Marsha, who actually showed me her garden, her virtual garden. So it's very long. I had a very long moment with her when you have to know that in AltSpace VR, the communities were here since most of them since the beginning, and they were really, really, really attached and stayed for a lot of years. So they had the time to build extensive environments. So this is her garden, and she also showed me her home, where we had an interview together. Let's just see. Yeah. Can you hear? Hi.
Wow, I didn't realize it's quieter here.
Not for me. I hear the same
No,
approximately.
no, yeah, I hear it. Yeah. And then over here, I put one of my paintings.
Let me come back. Oh, I'm just gonna teleport. Oh, I'm on the roof.
Oh, oh.
Sorry.
Nico's brother Timo made me that avatar of me sitting in a
Oh,
rocking chair.
it's you. Oh, let me take that. Oh, I love it. I actually saw.
So I'm not going to show everything, but then she showed me I will just talk at the same time. I think it's gonna be better. Okay, so she also showed me the interior of her home, which really looks like it's really like a everyday home. So she has everything: a room, a bathroom, even a place where she can fakely wash clothes. She has a piano room. So for Marsha, Altspace VR was her second life, as she explained to me that she was a caregiver for a very long time, and she was not able to move from home. So for her, Altspace VR was really a second home. And then she explained to me how she felt, because just before we had an interview together, she explained to me how she felt when she learned that Altspace was disappearing. So we had an extensive, sorry, just let me find the time code. We had an extensive interview together. So just, I asked her what she felt.
I mean, how you felt when Microsoft announced the closure of the VR server.
My heart jumped out of my throat. My chest swelled. I'm burning inside of me. I'm attached to my friends here. They're all going to be scattered like the Tower of Babel. You know, everybody's going someplace else. And then when you see them, they're not who I'm looking at right now, like I'm looking at you. And it's just the familiarity of it, the ease of moving around in it. They don't have that anywhere else. I don't want to go in VR chat and have an avatar turn into a pile of running rats around the place. It happened to me in VR chat, and it disturbed me. And mostly my friends, even though everybody says, well, continue to stay in touch, like the gal that just came here, Shopper Mom. We stay in touch. She phones me. And a lot of my friends phone me. We talk on the phone, but they don't live near me. It's not like I can say, hey, come on over to the house. Let's have a talk. Now it's on the phone again.
So Marsha, explained me that she was really losing her home, and I think that this testimony represents most of what people told me during all the interviews we've had together. So as you've noticed also, with chat environments, there's a lot of churches in Altspace VR. And so I really wanted to show you one of the sermons, which was called the last mess. I don't know if it's the proper word in English. I'm not sure. But yeah, I wanted to show you the last sermon that was given. Sermon that was given in the first Meta Church.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, we do give you all honor, glory, and praise, oh God. We know, Father God, that you are the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, oh God, and we thank you for it, oh Lord. We thank you for the church, everyone who has been involved in this church and making sure that your word has gone out into alt space, Father. Bless each and every one of our hands as we go forth and continue to do what it is you have called us to do. We thank you for all the attendees. Thank you for all the churches here in Alt Space, oh God. And we pray, Father God, for each and every one of them for direction, oh God, on where it is and how it is that they're to operate, moving forward in the metaverse, Father. So, Father, we thank you that even though all space is sunsetting, your word is not sunsetting, oh God, because your word is life. Your word lives on. Your word is love. So we will carry it wherever it is that you would have us to go, whatever platform, Father. So continue to use each.
So that was the last sermon of of the first meta church. But actually, the presence of church in virtual realities are not new. In the 2007 film The Cat, the Reverend, and the Slave by Kaori Kinoshita and Alain Deladegra, they documented the life of Jennifer and Benjamin Faust, a couple of pastors in the first church in Second Life, where they said they found no positive influence. So alt space also became a favorite space for American churches, reproducing places of worship, churches, giant baptisteries, and etc. And these famous scenes of the Old and New Testaments that I just showed you with the pictures, that serves as backdrops for virtual evangelism. And so, if, of course, a meteor shower or a wrecking ball is not the destructive instrument, what happens when a persistent world is unplugged? So, of course, I went to the end and recorded the end of Alt Space VR, which I'm just going to show you. Spoiling the project, of course. All right.
Yes, I'm not crying. That's about perfect.
I know. I'm like, I'm not crying.
Yes, we can hear you. So yeah, feel free to hang out as long as you want, as long as we can. Hang out here. We got nowhere else to go because you can't get there.
I started the video. I couldn't get into the world, and it said all space had an error, and it kicked me back into
Survivors.
Oculus. So I have a feeling that that's probably what is going to happen to everybody else. Luckily, I was able to just try it again, and I got in. But I think that's how it's going to be that. So yeah, that's.
Millie and I wanted to go to what's it called, City Nights as our goodbye, since that's where we all met up.
City Nights, that's right. Yeah.
It'll be local to your headset. To your point.
Right, so you know that alt space is just going to leave the program just running. It's just going to be empty.
No, that's it. It's just going to be where, sorry, you can't come in. It's an
Let me
error.
check out the website, see what's going on with the website. Yeah, good idea. Let me check. Website is gone. That website's gone. You can't log in anymore.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The website is shut down.
Bad, man.
Yeah, alt space is shut down.
Pretty special to lend here.
Yeah,
I at least thought I'd know when I was
get out
going
of
to be
this
in.
world, you're probably
Not knowing
out.
is the weirdest part.
I wonder maybe if you just leave, you can't come back in ever.
Pixelating.
Yes, we are the rapture.
Yeah.
No, I DJ'd already. I wanted.
Now, didn't you say you had a phone call?
Quiet.
You showed me
Milady.
yesterday.
So that was the end of Alt Space VR, seeing through my camera. So yeah, the real time of discrete computing machines conditions the relationship to scrolling of simulated images. And the world disappeared in few minutes after we had a bit of overtime. I was supposed to close at I think it was 7 in the evening, CET, but it actually closed 5 minutes after the time. So despite this brief reprieve or belief in a possible reversal, you've heard people talking and speculating about this end. The real-time ending of Allspace VR is similar to the ending of every servers. And Henry Lowood described it as a world forever deleted, not with a bang, but with an error message. But it's exactly what happened. But it actually became a genre. You can watch on YouTube a lot of videos of servers closing. So back to a bit of theory. Yeah. So the contemporary era no longer produces ruins, no longer has the time to do so. So in any case, what characterized the thinking of contemporary authors with ruins, with this great historical thesis cited by Marc Auger, echoed by many authors. He says, it is undoubtedly at a time of the most massive destruction, at a time of the greatest capacity for annihilation, that ruin will disappear both as a reality and as a concept. But taken up, this quotation was taken up by Bruce Begout in his book, Obsolescence of Ruins, and he created the word instant ruin, in which he specifies that we have entered a third age of the ruins, building that barely have been erected and that are already falling, and that are raised instantly and instantly rebuilt. So it is impossible to produce beautiful ruins, which have today become the sort of standard model of the imagination and nostalgia for pure time, in a symbiotic relationship between nature and culture. Current buildings no longer survive to human lives. So first, they are built with poor materials, meaning they are built against the test of time, and they do not create elegant ruin, that of concrete trace of passage of time to the present. Let me share again. So Juliana Bruno asks these questions. Let me find where it is. It's just here. Asks this question, particularly based on the very materiality of these buildings. Can we really speak of a modernist ruin? Unlike the porous permeable stone of ancient building, the material of modernist does not ruin. Of modernism, sorry, does not ruin. Concrete does not decay. It does not slowly erode and corrode, fade out or fade away. It cannot monumentally disintegrate. In some way, modernist architecture does not absorb the passing of time. So adverse to deterioration, it does not age easily, gracefully, or elegantly. She further adds that we live in an era that rejects ruination, that is the process of ruination, symptomatic of our regime of historicity and its presentism, to use François Hartog's term, a plasticized present, an eternal present, also evoked by Marc Auger and Bruce Begout, thus annihilating any relationship to the past and the future. In her 2023 article, Sabine Forero Mendoza, yes, it's called Omnipresence of Ruins, Aesthetic and Art History. She writes that it's probably no longer accurate to assert that ruins embody a form of longevity that places them in time well beyond humankind. The dialectic between defeat and resistance, disappearance and survival, as well as the struggle between man and nature, in which Georg Simmel perceived the principal law of ruins and the formula for a balance explaining their charm, now seem meaningless. So perhaps to enable us to imagine not just a future that seems inaccessible to us, we must seize ephemeral objects like ruins, giving the imagination a right of continuation. And rather than concluding that ruins are absent, we will put forward the idea of their constant renewal at a pace unprecedented in history. So undoubtedly, this word should be used. Still, Joanna Bruno writes that we should recognize that our history is made up of different ruins. In modern time, different architectures bear the mark of time. Time passing is not simply etched on the surface of stone, but is marked on the skin of the celluloid. It is impressed on other kinds of architecture, the translucent screen of moving image installations. Picture in motion write our modern history. They can be the living, moving testimony of the effects of duration. Moving images are modernity's ruins. The ruins of modernity, if the archaeology of moving image events, are perhaps found in what is the most symptomatic of our current mode of inhabiting, no longer in celluloid, but on the surface of our screen in computer code servers that have now become everyday place, persistent worlds in ruin as techno-aesthetic device. To approach at the extremities both their permanence and their fragility, and a possible radical vision of a relation to time. So time is missing, and its absence of trace, firstly, is the limit case of the nature-culture dialectic, traditionally symptomatic of the ruins. So the relationship to real time occurs in properly inorganic universe. Unlike current ruins that undergo forms of disintegration, simulated objects do not bear the stigmata of time that has passed, as Karim Sharidi put it. Because in fact, experimenting ruins is above all experimenting the past in the present from visible trace. And in persistent world, it's about experiencing in the present an absence or presence in the landscape or a program decor. And it's precisely in this question of program to disappear that try to make the leap from actual to virtual ruins. So this absence of trace is, as a bite, obviously concerns all virtual worlds. Let me find the article I'm looking for. Oops, somewhere here. Yeah. And so also in inactive or semi-active worlds, the mark of time is read differently, for instance, through aesthetics of ways of building. For one article, the researcher Vincent Miller and Gonzalo Garcia conducted an auto-ethnographic research in what they call digital ruins in the settings of 3 persistent worlds, Blue Mars, Trinity, and active worlds. And they explore these 3 persistent worlds by documenting their experimentation in this abandoned or semi-abandoned virtual world from the 90s or beginning of the century, seeing these places as spaces, I quote, spaces of useless efforts, of personal project, of human relationships, and nascent communities that were subsequently abandoned or neglected. A space imbued with the death of virtual utopia, in the negative of today major infrastructure like high performance algorithm, artificial intelligence, etc. So some of these memory architecture are still present and resolutely outdated, despite Meta's failed attempts to bring metaverse back into fashion. So now I'm going to jump into my second field of research, which is l'ouvroir, by Chris Marker and Max Moswitzer. Now I'm just trying to load in Firestorm. And I hope it's going to work properly. Yep. So here we are. Just going to take some bit of distance. Yeah. So L'Ouvroir is an island in the virtual world of Second Life. And we are at the sea level, which we will focus on. And its activity stopped in 2010. We have an intermediate zone and the skybox that are located high in the sky, that are still used by the avatar Eupalinos Eugagian. So we can go really, really high in the sky, like 5,000 meters in high, I think. But the borders are only 255 square size, as you can see on the map. It's a square. So what makes Ouvroir unique is that it was an atelier under constraints. Let's say the term ouvroir comes from Ouvroir de Littérature Potentielle group, also called OLIPO. And they were using mathematical forms as formal constraints to open all as a sandbox at a time when virtual worlds and 3D were being explored. So Chris Marker, had the idea for Ouvroir, but never built anything himself. He was acting as a workshop leader, let's say. And it was Max Mosfitzer who was administratively in charge of the platform, and he built a lot of this environment. Ooh, that's lagging. Okay, no, it's okay now. Just going to. Oh, yeah, that's really lagging. I don't know why. Usually it works very well. So yeah, just going to for a little bit. So while speaking, so it's going to be funny. So Max Mosfitzer was not the only person who built Ouvroir, actually. We had other builder avatars such as Eupalinos Eugagian, Exucius Juli, Lucien Boukmaitz, Balthazar Truffaut, and among others. And we also had other avatars coming in Ouvroir, such as Agnès de Caillou, for example, who tested scripts for bots used in future works or performances. And so Ouvroir evades any forms of archive preservation provided by Second Life. Ooh. Provided by Second Life or Linden Lab. So Ouvroir is itself an archive. And it depends on relations and laws set by Linden Lab system. So we cannot obtain a private copy of the data outside of Linden Lab servers, the company that owns Second Life. So yeah, it's Ouvroir in its original environments, and it cannot enter any museum collection. So for Centre Pompidou, who actually pays today, because to be able to maintain such a place online, you have to pay every month a fee that you owe to Linden Lab for maintenance purpose, of course. And so now it's the Centre Pompidou who actually pays every month this fee. And it cannot be considered as part of the collection as a whole artwork, but is actually an online publication. Yeah, so it was actually created in 2008 by Chris Marker and Max Mosfitzer for an exhibition which was called Abschied from Kino, which translates to a farewell to movies. A farewell to movies, which Marcus was a filmmaker. I haven't made any biography of him yet, so I mean, I'm not going to make a biography of who Marker was very extensively, but he was mainly a filmmaker in his life, and he got very interested in mediums such as CD-ROMs, or he learned programming in the 80s and built a program in BASIC, program of discussion. So App Should Come From Kino, or A Farewell to Movies, it doesn't say that he's won't make any movie, but more that he was moving forward and using the tools of the 21st century. And when I said that Ouvroir is an archive, is that this sort of big red bubble that we are entering in was a reproduction, was made for reproduction of his artworks. So we have some pictures on the wall. It actually opens with, let's say, reduction of his career with these two pictures in 1972 and this other picture in 2002, which were taken at the same place in Paris, République Square. And so it resumes in a way Marker's career in two pictures. And I'm not going to make an extensive tour of the museum, but as you can see, he tries to no, it's better here. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Marker artworks, but this is a reproduction of one of his artwork, and now I forgot the name of it. But it's a huge installation, usually with a lot of screens, and when people enter in the screen, they can change from one screen. Some of the screens were made to be sort of interactive. So this is a reproduction, but it's also a way to mock reproductions, to reproducing it in that way, because of course it's not let's say complete in a way. So yeah, so let's move. And it was a way of mocking also museum, which was in Marker's career very, very important part of his career, also in movies, such as Les Statues Meurent aussi. Yeah, so I'm not going to show everywhere because I really want to move to what I have done there. So I've made a project. So as it's impossible to preserve Ouvroir in its state like this, as Centre Pompidou or no one is really proprietary of Ouvroir apart from Second Life, I decided to make an inventory of every object that exists in Ouvroir. So I will try to find it. Yeah, it's just here. I will just quit because otherwise I will lag a lot. So so here we have the inventory. I mean, it's a third of the inventory. It's not the whole of it, all of it. So the idea of this project, I imagine at the center of an excavation site, of the decor to extract and harvest and explore, an attempt to get out of the relation of dependency. Apparently the recording stopped. I don't know why. Is that okay?
We're just messing with you. Keep going.
So yeah, sorry, I'm trying to focus again. So this inventory is a center of sort of excavation sites of the decor to try to harvest and explore and attempt to, as I said, to get out of the relationship of dependency beyond the conservation in state, let's say. Because specifically Ouvroir is a great example of how avatars were building. I think before 2011, because almost everything was built with prims, and now builders have the ability to build with mesh. And I wanted to make it as an attitude of archaeologist of the virtual, as methodological, as totally paradoxical and fictional, in addition to being a very DIY attitude, let's say. That is to say that we do everything with accumulation of photograph, as it's of course impossible to dig in the ground and put everything in an inventory. So it was the opportunity to explore the photographic medium and the links that it maintains with archaeology and all the objects in France of which we can stop to see we can see it in an eternal presence, and it's also a reflection that Miller and Garcia made on digital runes. So it's of course very fictional because it's impossible to know what were the previous version of the workshop with stratigraphic evolution of the place, of course, through soil studies. So this is why documentation by photography here comes to fossilize the objects in a way that is parallel to, that's why in parallel of the inventory, which is only one part of the harvest, I documented also, so I recorded interviews with the people who built Ouvroir. For example, Lucien Boukmeit, I have, it's in French, so unfortunately, I don't think it's relevant to show the videos, but I have some pictures that I can show, just a screenshot of the records that I made with Lucien Boukmeit, who showed me actually pictures of how Ouvroir was at the time when it was lively. So I was able to, of course, recognize that some place hasn't changed, but that there was other objects, or here, for example, you can see Chris Marker avatar wearing Glory to Guillaume en Egypte t-shirt. And I didn't say it, and I should say it actually, but the island Ouvroir is dedicated to this this cat, this orange cat called Guillaume en Egypte, and this is why you can see his image everywhere on the island. So I did this interview with Lucien, but not only with Lucien, also with Agnès de Cailleux. It was only this is the picture, the original picture that she showed me. For example, she showed me her bots. So she was working with Eliza at the Eliza bots. So it was the first time that you could. So it's really screenshot from 2009 maybe, or 2008 or 2009. So she was working with Eliza, the bot, and she was just trying some scripts, and trying, to let's say, sorry, my English is not very good. I'm trying to find the words. She's trying to in French we have a word called bidouillage. But yes, she was trying to work with the scripts basically. And yeah, it's just a picture of the platform. So I conducted this interview, but the purpose of this inventory and all of it is to trying to archive traces of previous versions, particularly through these photographs that were shown to me, and to make an assessment of the current situation, an attempt at exhaustion. We say that in French is épuisement. There's no real translation in English, but I tried to step in front of every object I could find in Ouvroir and taking pictures just to be maybe able to reconstruct it at its original state when it end, maybe one day, we don't know, if it's ever needed. So I'm not going to make an extensive conclusion of what I just said, but I really just want to show you one last video. So this is I forgot to say one other thing, is that Ouvroir is very known, and as part of the project, of course, I'm not just only taking the pictures of the person who contributed to Ouvroir, but also to try to trace it in movies, in documentation where I can find it. For example, also documentation of the original exhibition where it was shown. Tracing it. Oh, the name of the famous installation I was talking about. Sorry if it's a bit messy. It was Zapping Zone. It was the one I was trying to find, and it was the installation that was shown in the bubble. So I'm not going to make an extensive conclusion of what I just said. But I want to show a last thing, is that with this inventory, I gathered a lot of informations about each and every object. So, for example, if you step in front of one object, you can inspect it. And the inspection just gives the name of the object, the description, to whom it belongs to. So we have every information, who created it, and how it's made. So the number of face, vertex, and the date of creation. So this is how, for example, that industrial strength laxative shipped to Linden Lab, which was actually part of a broader installation by Lucien Boukmaitz, which actually mirrors the film by Marker called Junkopia. You can trace it back to the marketplace of Linden Lab. So in that way, this inventory enabled me to understand how the place was made, and understand how the builders build it themselves. Or they used the 3D engine that was offered with Second Life, or they can also use objects that were sold, or like now this one is a free buy, so it was for free, that were sold or free on the marketplace as objects. Yes. So as a conclusion, as I'm also trying to dig deeper in the layers of what Second Life is, or what virtual world are, not only on the surface, but also on deeper layers, on the hardware layers. I'm just going to show you a video of called Second Life, How It's Unmade, because I think it was in 2021. Yes, 2021. All the servers of Second Life migrated to Amazon AWS. So this is a picture of the server which are gone after the servers were completely gone. Yeah, and they also gave us a video called Second Life: How It's Unmade. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Hortense.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing so much. It was like a quite a sad sad ending, no? Like being all this, seeing all these like servers being destroyed. So
very brutal.
Ruthlessly, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to turn back to the video. Yeah, let's yeah. Yes, absolutely. It was quite brutal, but it was I mean, you mean the shredding of the servers? It was,
comparing it with the messages that usually come up with like on the world-ending videos that are so dry and so like
absolutely.
suddenly seeing this video has been a big change, a big difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a way to of course avoid that any crucial information got released if they didn't destroy and shred the servers like this. Sorry, I hope it was great, and I'm very sorry for my English. Sometimes it was
No, don't. I mean, it was
Totally.
fantastic, and I think also I want to thank you for this incredible new format going. You know, also just seeing your hands on the keyboard while we were looking at what's happening on the screen and then going back to the books. It was really like a fantastic way to go through all of this research that you've been doing for the last years, and this ideas of digital ruins that you connected so well also to this emotional side of participant and the social side, and also this later artistic preservation installation issues. Maybe, I mean, while people send in their comments and compliments in the chat, I'll bring you a first question that I got via chat that was related about how it works with the spaces on Second Life. If an institution stops paying the fees, do their spaces disappear? You mentioned the Pompidou now paying a monthly fee to Linden Labs. So maybe how does it work in terms of this like maintenance fees and this like?
Yes, so there are several sides of the problem, let's say. So first you have to pay for, if you want a whole island, you have to pay for the island, and then you have to pay for maintenance fee every month. And if you stop paying, your island disappears. But it gets, sometimes it goes in the fridge until you find some money to pay it again. So it's not like erased when you stop paying, but they can give you some time for it to come back, let's say. We experienced that with Ouvroir one day. So before, it was the production of Marca who paid this maintenance fee, and they forgot to pay, I think. I don't know what happened. But so Agnès de Cailleux, who I showed like Jill Olaria avatar, she wanted to show Ouvroir in front of everyone at Lyon Art School, and it disappeared in front of us. We couldn't go back. And and we experienced that several times. And as they know that Ouvroir is an old, let's say, island, they just put it in a fridge, and it's a metaphor, of course. But you could not see it, but it was still in the servers. Like it was not erased.
Was like disabled.
Sorry?
Like disabled, or
it was disabled, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, if you have an island that was important for Second Life history, I think it's called a preserving network. I'm not sure about the exact way it's called, but if you've created an island important for Second Life, it's possible that Linden Lab accepts to host it on their own fee or on their own server, just for a preservation purpose. So,
and is there any guideline
then,
in terms of like the time that has to, or like how do they decide which island deserves to be preserved or not? Like,
yes, that's a good question. I think you have to apply, maybe, or it's usually for islands that have been there for a long time, that are important for the history of maybe an artist, or for the history of Second Life itself. So maybe like the first island that was ever created in Second Life, or the island where I don't know, that was host a very important event, or such as.
But this is interesting. I wonder how much this approach, that there's still like there is somebody who's thinking about the cultural value of this. I wonder how much this is still present in the metaverse that you showed us from Zuckerberg, for example, or all of these contemporary, versions of virtual worlds. I wonder if that's something that belongs to the early 2000s, or do you think that this is something that also is present in other worlds that are built, like this idea of giving value outside of just like the commercial side?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's the hype of the metaverse passed a little bit. No, completely passed, actually. So I'm not. I think that now more and more institutions are interested. I don't know if it's I'm answering the question properly, but I think that, of course, more and more institutions are interested in this specific space, in virtual worlds that existed in the 90s and 2020s. But I think the problem is that virtual spaces are mostly belongs to big companies, so it's usually very difficult, as I just said, for Ouvroir to own, in a way, the island, or to own a place and to really make it entering, let's say, a collection.
Yeah, so because I guess that it at the end is, I mean, it relates on the companies themselves, if they sort of acknowledge the cultural value of the spaces that they sort of helped build, or like they sort of started, and if they acknowledge that value, then they might make it easy to preserve it, and if not, they I guess that they don't care.
Sounds like they need a digital curator, John. Maybe we can advertise in case.
I mean, Hortense is much more prepared, as you've seen, to do that job. In fact, and also thinking on preservation and the inventory and all this. And also there was a question by Kushkari that I think that you sort of like responded already, saying, could this inventory be used to rebuild, reenact, recreate?
Chris Marker's work.
Yeah, Chris
using
Marker's
this
work.
documentation.
So I was wondering, like, I guess that the work that you've done, I mean, usually preservation is sort of like the act of like preserving the work as as it is. But in some of these virtual worlds, particularly the ones that disappeared, the digital preservation and digital documentation can sort of be like the boundaries between preserving and creating the tools to reenact it are so close between each other. Or I don't know if you've seen it that way. I mean, I've seen it that way. I feel that digital preservation of virtual worlds is sort of always inviting to recreate those worlds. And the screenshots particularly also sort of invite you to do that. And I was wondering if that's something that you feel too, or if you think on like when you are creating the inventory that this will help someone to maybe recreate the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. We've discussed with Alexandre Michan. I have to say his name, of course, because he also works with Ouvroir on Centre Pompidou side, and also for his own research. And so when we discussed, it was quite clear that we should make an inventory of all of these artworks if someday, for some reason, Ouvroir disappears. So this was a way to... so I took a picture of really every single object of the... It was very long. There was like more than 600 objects. It took me 2 weeks, every day, very focused. I became like a machine. But I tried to photograph every single little objects in every angle possible, so that it's maybe able to recreate in another 3D engine. So of course it won't be the same, it won't look the same, but at least you can have an idea of how to recreate. But I really wanted to do that for that purpose, but also to try this, let's say, fake methodology of archaeologists, fake, because that's the whole point of my PhD.
And I was wondering, actually, speaking of photography as a documentation, because you showed one of those spaces, I think it was in the NFT Oasis. Also, I love, it's also the ruins of all these hype cycles, right? Like it's the ruins of ideologies that kind of like come up from Silicon Valley. So there's so many like interesting also layers to this. But yeah, one of the spaces that you showed was using photogrammetry to do this stuff. I was thinking if, you know, doing like some sort of digital photogrammetry of Ouvroir could be also another way to, or if somebody maybe has done it, this idea of kind of creating the 3D model, or like it's the equivalent of taking some sort of like a, also your mirror board with all those images look to me like kind of a data set of many different perspectives of these objects that I thought was almost like doing a photogrammetry of it.
That's a great point. We've discussed about it with Alexandre, but actually I don't know how it can be possible to, but it's probably doable. We have to maybe find a proper script to film everything. But I think, I'm not sure, but maybe you can film in 3D in this world. But that's also a great, maybe a great way. But it would only be let's say the skin of the whole place, and not objects as single little parts of the whole island.
Yeah,
so
I was in fact curious to know why the objects, why so much focus on those objects.
On those objects particularly?
Because as you said, it's like there are many ways and many approaches to document and to present that virtual world. And focusing on the object and doing this like intense documentation of each of them is a very particular way of preserving it. So
yes, but I was inspired by inventory of artists like Christian Boltanski or Nicolas Bayeul, who made an inventory of Escape from Tarkov video game. But actually, this inventory is just for me the basis of let's say multiplying the way of preserving it through documentation. So that's why I also gathered photos and pictures of of the person who built Ouvroir or who experienced in Ouvroir. I try to retrieve it from movies, from I don't think that there are books about where you can find some, but I mean when people usually make documentaries about Second Life, they use Ouvroir as a decor or as a setting. So, for example, in one of the in the exhibition that was shown in the photographers gallery about preserving virtual worlds, I think you showed a documentary called Preserving Virtual Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
In which the part in Second Life, the one that was dedicated to Second Life, some part of it were recorded in Ouvroir. So I'm trying to retrieve, let's say, and collect, gather documentation as much as I can on every medium possible.
So maybe one last question. Well, two questions actually. This incredible mirror board, is it open? I don't know if you mentioned it or not. I don't know if you want to share it or.
I haven't mentioned maybe, but as I'm doing my PhD right now, it's not finished yet. It's not the, let's say, final version of that work.
Okay.
So I'd like to, with Ouvroir, I'd like to make a book, but with it's in project. It's not made yet, but I'd like to make a book of that inventory, an edition, and with Altspace VR pictures and films. It will be more a movie and also a sorry, I'm a bit tired, and an installation as well. So I think that I will maybe publish this inventory as it is, but the final goal is to make a book about it. But here, actually, I wanted to really download all of the pictures I've made. Here is only the third of the inventory, like the whole thing. It's only the third, so the problem is that my computer was lagging when I was trying to put all of the pictures, and that at some point it was really annoying, and I didn't have time to wait. So it still has to be completed with this 600 objects, and then I will be able to share it.
Yeah, because I was thinking of that you mentioned that it's a practice-based PhD. So I was in fact wondering, like, the practice side of it. I guess that it's the book and the video that you just mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I guess that we'll be looking forward for that massive book, I guess. With all the images and all the documentation. And on that note, I guess that you have shared already quite a lot with us. And
shall we let her go?
Yeah, I mean,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing all your research, all the references, the books, like the work that you've done, the inventory, all the information. I think it's a really nice research project, really important also to document all those fading words. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and let's meet in the next screen walk maybe.
Yeah.
Please, that would be great. Thanks also to everybody who joined, everybody who's looking at this as a recording. And John, we're back again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. We will be back in 2 weeks with Ting Chun Liu and Leon Etienne Cour, who will be looking at generative AI models. They will be looking at what happens when you feed one of those models with the images that they create. So creating some sort of like a feedback loop on one of those models. So please join us in 2 weeks and let's see them coding live. And yeah, thank you once again, Hortense, and thank you once again to
Bye bye.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.